Hello everybody. Today I wanted to talk a bit about bullet journaling and how I started my bullet journal and how I set it up for the year, and then just a very brief look at how I set it up for each month. To begin with, this year I did a 2019 year title. I really enjoyed putting this together because it allowed me to be nice and creative and sort of artistic, which I love doing in my bullet journal recently. And it means that it's easier for me to find at the start of the year later on if I want to look back for whatever reason. I didn't do this in 2018, but that's sort of because I started the notebook right at the very beginning instead of halfway through it, so I didn't really need to make it easy to find. But it is nice to have this big header at the start of the year. One thing that I've done in both years, both 2018 and 2019, is I've added calendars. So what this does is it lays out the year ahead, so you can cross off days, count them down to an event or just to the end of the year or whatever, or you can highlight important dates as well, just so that you can see them right there at a glance. I also set goals for the start of the year. They're sort of like New Year's resolutions, but I don't like to consider them New Year's resolutions, they're just my yearly goals. I think that bullet journaling is all about setting goals and tasks for yourself, so I think it's a really good idea just to have this page at the start of the year just for all the things that you want to accomplish. You've got 365 days to do them, and they're just laid out really clearly right there, and you can see what you want to do. A really popular page, I've seen a lot of people do this on blogs, on Pinterest, I myself do it of course, is books to read and films to watch. It's just a really handy place to keep track of all the books and the films that you want to see and enjoy that year. You can see that last year I laid it out like a little bookshelf, and then this year it's just more simple, it's just a list. I'd left space to write in more books on my little bookshelf last year, and then I never did because it was just so much of a faff. So I think I'll probably keep it more up to date with it just being a list, just for me personally. So one thing that I think is quite an important thing to add to your bullet journal is a key, or it's also called a legend, and that is what all of your bullet points mean. This might not be necessary for everyone, you might just do a little dot and then you cross it off when you're done, and that's fine. But for me last year, and certainly this year, I wanted to make it easy to tell at a glance what is a to-do list, what is an event, and what's an appointment. And this year I've also added one for an exam or an assessment. One thing that I've seen people do that I think is a really clever idea as well is they write out this key or this legend, whatever you want to call it, and they make it so that you can pull it out from the front or the back cover of the bullet journal. And I just think that's genius, because then at any point in the month, in the year, you can just pull it out from the front or the back of your journal and you see it and you know what your bullet points mean, you know what you're writing down. And I think that's really smart, and I wish that I'd seen that before I set up my key for this year, but unfortunately I'd already done it when I spotted that on Pinterest, so maybe next year or next notebook potentially. One thing that I've added to my journal this year is blog and video ideas, just to keep them all in one place really, so that I don't just write them down on scrappy bits of paper. I might move on to a separate notebook for that instead of having them in my bullet journal, but just when I was setting up for the year I thought that that's quite a good thing for me personally to add. And then moving on to the month, so a lot of bullet journalers like to do what we call cover pages, and that is just a page where you write the name of the month and you either draw whatever you want, put stickers on, or just leave it as just the name, nice and simple. And that again means that it's really easy to find the beginning of that month when you're just flicking through, if you want to look back on it for whatever reason, or if you just need to find the month when it's time to write things down as well. It's really helpful just to have that cover page there. And it's another good place for you to get really creative with your decorations if you want to as well. One thing that I did only in 2018 is I did quotes to remember for the month. Some people really like to have quotes or words to keep in mind throughout the month. I know my mum likes to find a little phrase. This didn't really work for me, but it was nice to try. Definitely, if you see things that you would like to include in your bullet journal, then why not? Like, even if you think you maybe won't use it or it maybe won't work for you, why not just give it a go for a month and see what you think of it. For me personally, the quote for the month, it's not something I could really get into. So one thing that I did as well in 2018 that I've not done this year, but looking back I think is a really good idea, was a monthly look. So in this I had a calendar and I had tasks that were an ongoing thing rather than just a daily to-do list. Memories of events or things that people around me said that I wanted to remember, and important dates that were really significant that month. You can actually see on that all of mine are auditions. So yeah, looking back, I do think that was a really good idea, just to lay out everything for the month, and to have that little memory section as well. I think is really quite cute. So I'd like to include that in future months. I didn't include that this January, but maybe in February, March, whatever, I'll start adding that back in again. These are another very popular bullet journaling thing. These are habit trackers, and they're used to keep track of how you're getting on with various habits that you want to keep up throughout that month. The way that I do them is by writing what I want to do every single day, and then I write numbers for every day of the month, and then just fill in or cross out the numbers on the dates that correspond to when I did that, if that makes any sense. One thing that I started doing a couple of months ago, which is why you don't see it in the 2018 bullet journal, is setting 3 or 4 specific things that I want to accomplish that month, and I just call these goals pages. I got the idea for doing this and for the layout of this by watching the YouTube channel My Life in a Bullet, which I'll link below. These goals for me are usually harder to track and a little bit more general than habits, which is why I've put them in a different place, but that's not always the case. They're just things that I absolutely definitely want to accomplish that month. And then the final thing that I wanted to show in this video was a weekly spread, which is where you put your to-do lists and stuff. So my weeks are usually just boxes with the day and the date in them, and then I write what I want to get done that day and I cross it off when I've done it, simple as that, using the bullets that I picked out, which you saw in the key/legend. So yeah, that's everything that I want to talk about in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. I will try to reply to them. If you did enjoy this video, then please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and turn on post notifications as well. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely day and goodbye.